realize it. Too, I got back into this a year ago. How many groups there were, but the majority of them, they have in their mind that they're so obsessed they want it on cable, and why can't they just enjoy what they're doing and take it slow and work on doing a YouTube channel? But no, they want to go from being a new group basically, and then they think they can market it on cable, and it just doesn't work that way.
And they don't quite understand what the paranormal is when they're doing that. I've ran into a lot of young teens. They play around with a lot of gadgets and a lot of interesting stuff. And, yeah, it looks good on TV. But the reality is 99.9% of what they're using is logically explainable and does not work and catch ghosts. And that's all a part of the marketing and media process, which I've had the privilege of working behind the scenes from A crew all the way up through from time to time throughout my career. But people don't realize the difference between television and real paranormal study a lot of times. Paranormal study is a lot different than most people think. It revolves a little bit more around the science, a little bit more around the logistics, yes, a little bit more around the debunking from time to time, but it doesn't revolve as much around what people think with EMF meters, REM pods, night vision cameras, and so forth. And those are things that I discuss on a regular basis with Paranormal Truth and Reality. They're things that I'm putting in a book here in a little while with some very professional people that are willing to share with me. And some of the things I'm going to be putting in the documentary as well so that people understand those differences, because TV is great. And I never diss any of the TV shows that are out there, but any one of them that would be listening to this show would agree there's a big difference between the reality of TV and the paranormal and the reality of physical paranormal study.
Oh yeah.
And they work hard from creating their television shows. They bust their butt on it. They try to keep it as real as they can with networks pushing on it. But it's not what I grew up with, I guess you could say. And it's been lost throughout the years when paranormal fame kicked in. One of the other things people don't really realize, to be frankly honest with you, is, and I learned this from talking to the networks when I was pitching my shows, is the television shows that everybody are striving to do right now, the networks aren't interested in 99.9% of the time anymore, because the paranormal as we know it is getting stale. The community understands the differences now, and they want more. So they don't want that average guy running around with a camera getting scared and going, did you see that? Did you hear that? With a night vision camera.
Well, they
want something more.
Well, I will say this, that it has changed back almost to the beginning. At least on my show with my audience, they really are getting more back into the UFOs and things like that than
more in-depth thing.
Yeah, more interesting, and it seems like when I had some major guests on my show, on the UFOs, my audience just ate it up, and then if you have ghost hunting groups on, now there is an exception. There's one called the Southern Paranormal. When I have them on, I have a 30,000 listenership with them, and they bring people on. But then some of these other groups, they bring nothing on, or virtually nothing. I mean, I basically feel like I'm looking at a microphone and a couple of screens here when I talk to them. But they don't realize what's all involved. The same way like you have to market your shows, the same way I have to market myself. Now, the person we have as my co-host, Michael W. Hall, is in a process with his group of pitching a UFO to cable, and I think it might fly right now because, again, I have found that the UFO thing has opened up where ghost hunting groups are basically dying off. And I will say this: what really hurt it a lot is back about 6 months ago, one of my guests was on a ghost hunting national show on a cable channel who left the show. And what he was telling me that they would go out and do their filming. And when they came back, if they didn't have anything, the network gave them 24 hours to go fake it, put something together for broadcast.
Yeah, and the subcontractors that work on the shows when they get to a certain point, and I was a subcontractor that worked on shows with video editing and audio editing and going through the EVP files and a few other things early on with some of these, you're actually told at one point. In fact, I left one of the shows. I won't talk about who the show was because I still love the man to death. I think he's great. I think his show is awesome. But they're told, we want something that'll catch the audience. So when I got presented with a contract that said, hey, look, you need to present this a certain way, and came back and said, look, I can't do that. That goes against my morality. It was a breach of contract, and I never got paid for it. In fact, I got terminated for it. But yeah, I mean, networks are very strict. It's all about the ratings.
Oh, yeah. If you
are... fact,
go ahead, Michael.
I'll jump in here, Chris. It's, we are in the process. It's the UFO I-Team that I've founded and direct as well as being the radio host. But, we actually have, like your group, we have some very highly educated scientists that are involved with the UFO I-Team. We've got, Dr. Richard Haynes is a NASA retired professor. He was the guy that was in charge of the Human Factors Department at NASA. When they decided to put astronauts into space, they said, well, we may need a psychologist to figure out how human beings are going to react for a period of time when they're up there. And he's on a group, Dr. Marilyn Childs, who is the first female archaeoastronomer to get a PhD in that regard. So we go out there very seriously to do it. But you're right, the networks out there, because we've been talking with a few of them ourselves on the East Coast and the West Coast, they want the wow factor. They want something that will keep people from turning the channel. That's the main thing that they need to do so they can sell their advertising. So it's a challenge, to keep your integrity, do the investigations, and come up with what you think is good evidence, that you can show, and then also figure out if this is going to fit into their formula or not.
Well, and that's the key. Each network has their own little bit of formulas. Each channel has their own idealism and way to do it. What some of them are learning now is the public is eager for more education and more learning. So you got to find that curve to make it entertaining and also make it educational. That means that you bring in some more in-depth scientific people that understand the situation. You're able to break down the process. You're able to cover the histories and the situations and the science involved and so forth. Now, to me, that's always been interesting TV. I'd rather turn on the Discovery Network or the NASA Network or something and listen to a scientist as opposed to watching somebody run around with a night vision camera going, did you catch that? And not being able to explain much more than simple information. But it is starting to catch on now. UFOs, historical things. You still have to find that, like you're saying, that wow moment. You still have to find that way to connect it so that people are interested enough to keep it going. But it's gone way past the old days, I guess you could say.
But you know what also what has damaged, I hate to say it, Facebook Live has really damaged the paranormal. I'm sorry, people. I know some of you guys that listen to it are into Facebook Live, and some of you guys do a real good job. But then there's the other ones. It really damaged the paranormal because they get on their show, and they're sitting on their sofa, drinking beer and trying to do a show and talking about paranormal, and the stuff they're saying, they don't even know what they're talking about. And then they bring their guest on who was nobody to begin with, and now you got two people talking about something they both don't know anything about or can't even carry on a conversation. And, I look at that and I go, wow. I mean, and people see that and they get burned out on it really fast. I mean, at least I do. And I know I hear a lot from my audience. I mean, they do.
Yeah, we tried social media a little bit, but I'm very honest about social media. I ran into more ridiculousness than drama than anything else. And, of course, trying to produce a good show and being on a 5-year timeline, having to be able to produce at least 5 episodes so that I can have the production company pitch it properly, it wasn't my thing, I guess you could say. I come from a professional marketing and business background, and when I'm not doing that, I'm spending a lot of time at the conferences in a very professional background, talking to professional people, and I found a lot of unprofessionalism when you dealt with Facebook Live and social media. So I tend to limit my conversations in my media on there at this point, because it just became a rat race. And I simply didn't even respond to, I would guess, 99.9% of the messages that came over, because it was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know how many people you get a day, but I get a couple dozen of people a day wanting to be on my show. And then at that point, because, I'm retired. I do virtually everything out of my studio myself. I do have a girl that comes in here and helps me a few hours a week for bookings and stuff like that. And then my wife helps me. But other than that, that's how I operate. But, some of these people are so far out there that I didn't want them on my show. But I will tell you this.
I'm fairly isolated. I don't even bother looking at the messages on people a lot of times that ask to be on the show. I have a receptionist, because it's my day job, or I have an assistant, and she reaches out and picks the clients. And usually from time to time I'll go out and say, hey, get this person. Hey, get this person. Hey, get this person. And every now and then she fills a slot with somebody that I have no idea. So it's kind of a surprise show. Okay, I hope this is going to be a good guest. But I'm very selective. My audience is probably not nearly as large as yours. I think within 5 years I have maybe an average of 4,000 to 8,000 listeners on a regular basis, which I'm fine with. Could be larger than that. Donald never covers anything. I tell him not to tell me the numbers at any point. And then I have my rebroadcasts that I look at the numbers on through AM radio. But I'm very selective on the people that I have on, because I want to have an educational show, and I want to be able to talk and have a good conversation with somebody, as opposed to some of the people that I have learned very, very quickly. There's a whole bunch of people, when you're starting to talk about real paranormal study, that doesn't understand what it means. They don't go much past ghost hunting to have the realization that the paranormal means the unknown. So it covers a lot of things: cryptozoology, UFOs, ghosts, PK activity, telekinesis, archaeology, geology, you name it. It's in the paranormal somewhere along the line.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people don't even know. I get people, we were, having a guest on about even Bigfoot, right? And someone come back and they'll start yelling at me saying, well, Bigfoot is not paranormal. Well, as far as I'm concerned, a Bigfoot or anything like that is paranormal. It falls into it. Yeah.
It is. Quantum physics is paranormal. A lot of it is though the math adds up, a lot of it is based off of the unknown. You're talking about dimensions and multiplexes that we haven't really proven is there. It's just the math adds up.
Well, too, like you, when I got on here, I was on maybe 3 months, and I had a major network contact me. They wanted to pick up my show, but, they sent me a contract, and I started reading it, and I started thinking, boy, I'm not doing anything other than I did years ago. I'm nothing more than being a talk show host, but I can't pick out my own guest. I can't, I have to ask certain questions. I can't even take the calls myself. From, open lines. It all is fed into me, and they choose everything. And I started thinking, well, you know what? Maybe they're offering me a lot of money, but that's not what I wanted to do. Again, like I stressed a little over a year ago, when Art told me, hey, this is something you got to get back into, because I got a big mouth. I love talking. And, it was nice. For a few days, I went around going, oh, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. My wife and we were thinking how we were going to spend the money. They even, this one network, which is a major, they even produce movies. That's how big they are, along with electronics. They even offered to, one of the vice presidents offered to fly up here to Tacoma, Washington area and buy me a new Harley, because they notice I ride Harleys. They tried everything they could, but, it fell through. I'm glad it fell through, because you know what? I enjoy doing what I do. And if it has to be where I have to do it their way, I'd rather not do it.
No, that makes perfect sense. I wouldn't change my show for anybody. I like the format. It's different than most people. I've never had a guest leave and be upset about their experience with the show, and I wouldn't change it. I prefer to have guests that I know are going to be an enjoyable experience. Now, some of them are more fun than others. Some of them are more educational than others, but that's all a part of the process. If you can have a good if you can have a good guest that's willing to talk some good educational stuff or have a little bit of fun and not sling a bunch of cuss words, then you know you did something right.
Well, I did have one guest on my show, that his